podcast with Making Stuff and Jack Dub. Making Stuff and Jack Dub.
So much.
Making Stuff and Jack Dub. Making Stuff and Jack Dub.
Let it go. You say get out of the way. Get it, PJ.
Put it right on my ghost. So much.
Killing these people, trust me.
You're listening to Meadows and Makers podcast.
With Jack Dub and Making Stuff. Peace.
Okay, good morning. Welcome to another week of the Meadows and Makers podcast. I was probably over driving the music there, so my bad. But good morning, everybody, and welcome to, or afternoon, whatever the case may be, wherever you're at. But welcome to another week of the Meadows and Makers podcast, and this is a show where I like to bring on people that are trying to move in a more sustainable or self-reliant direction, and just try to give some inspiration and some tools for everybody out there. And, you know, just kind of try to move in a better direction. And so, thank you for joining this morning. And, we got a great guest lined up for you. It's another fellow, DJ here on MSP Waves, but I guess we're gonna nerd out this morning on, on some of our passions with food and being able to experiment and things like that. So I got Mackenzie Gary on the show today, and are going to get to know Mackenzie a little better, and we're going to have a good chat. And so just before we get into it and everything, I just have to say up front, the views and opinions on this show are my own and those of my guests, and they do not reflect on the people that are running this beautiful operation here on MSP Waves. And so if you have any issues or anything like that, please contact myself and serve your complaints or suggestions or any of that kind of thing. And don't bother those guys. So yeah. Thanks again for joining, and we'll, without further ado, Mackenzie, how are you?
Hi. First, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me onto your podcast today.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's you I was hanging out and listening to Lazy Sundays, which is your show that you do on Sundays, right?
It is. So I'll be doing Lazy Sundays tomorrow, and I think I see some familiar faces in the MSP Waves audience right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like the format of your show. You got some cool like some cool jams going in the background, and you just kind of have like a conversation with the audience, and and you're into some interesting stuff. You're trying to make your way into becoming an entrepreneur, correct?
Yep. Yeah, that's correct. I'm really passionate about food. Since I was young, one of my first jobs was working as a farmhand on a farm, and I remember one day like picking cucumbers and eggplants and a whole bunch of stuff, and then bringing it to the farmer's market. And I sold a cucumber to an old lady in Brunswick, Maine.
Oh.
And after that, I just seeing her smile from that made me extremely passionate about food.
Oh, cool. So so you're from the Northeast area, I'm guessing?
Yep, I grew up in Maine.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful country up there, isn't it?
It really is.
So so were you like hiking and kind of being outdoors and doing a lot of that stuff as a kid?
Yeah, yeah. As a kid, I'd play outside. There there was a lot more forest there where I was growing up, so it wasn't a big deal to like go into the woods and just walk around or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, but I currently live in Louisville, Kentucky, in a city area. There's a lot less trees.
Yeah. So how do you like Louisville?
It's nice. It's kind of spread far apart. It's not really crammed like cities like New York or like Washington D.C. or anything like that. It's not crammed and packed together, so it's a little spread out.
Yeah, cool. What made you make the decision to move to Louisville? Was it a job?
So actually, when I went to school when I went to Penn State, my parents moved from Maine to Louisville.
Oh, okay.
So while I was in school, I would go back and forth between like school in Louisville, and then after I graduated, I kind of transplanted back here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. Cool. So right now you're trying to get or you're just kind of like getting everything set up with I put your post up here about experimenting with growing food indoors, and is that the vision for where you would like to go with your business? You're trying to figure out like different ways of maybe trying to grow and start a farm.
Yeah. So okay. So my passions in the food industry. So after I got out of college, I was really thinking, man, I really want to start my own food company. Like, what do I have to do? And I just knew from kind of a little bit of like food product development experience that I gained in school that I kind of had an idea of the equipment I might need if I wanted to, start a product development company. So, so I started, I had like no money, no crypto, and I was living in my mom's apartment after school. And so I was researching, how do I raise money to buy equipment so that I can start a food product development company. And I'm researching cryptocurrency and all of that stuff, and I come across Steemit. And so I started thinking, why don't I start blog posting about collecting cryptocurrency and use that crypto to buy food equipment to start a product development company.
Yeah.
And so things have just kind of steadily evolved and developed over time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I like your blog and that you're sharing, your successes and your lessons learned and all that kind of stuff. I like that you do that. I hold a very similar mindset that you got to try and you got to you're probably gonna fail in the beginning, but you gotta try and keep learning as you go.
Yeah, I think I had a post, I think maybe in 2017, where I tried to ferment kombucha. I tried to make my own kombucha, and it failed. It and so I posted on steemit about trying, and I had some photos of trying to make it, and then I had a follow up post where I was like, I told everybody I failed. It just I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe I didn't have enough sugar for the bacteria to eat.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the approach that I'm taking is, trying as many things as possible, seeing what works and what doesn't work, and
Yeah, and it's actually kind of cool that that Steemit is kind of a running record for you as well, to document your successes and your failures and all that kind of stuff, and so you can keep so you're not gonna forget it. So that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what is food product development? Is that like using or making different value added things with different types of foods?
yeah. So food product development is basically how do you take a concept of a food product or food idea, pardon me, and make it into something that can be manufactured, and it includes things like front of the label package design. It includes things like the nutrition facts panels. What else? It includes dealing with FDA and USDA regulations, if that's and also state and local government regulations as well in order to manufacture the product. So there's a bunch of different things that go into food product development. A lot more than I even used to think was involved. But
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So starting out is that when you're going in through like all your packaging and things like that, like is there a process for moving through if you're gonna, I guess, get a larger operation going? Does that apply to smaller operations, a lot of these regulations, things like that?
Well, what I found is at least here in Louisville, Kentucky, really small operations kind of fall under this like artisan food thing. So if you're like operating on a really small scale out of your house, you're working kind of as an artisan culinary chef. So if you say we can use microgreens. We were talking about that earlier. So say you were making microgreens. Maybe you package those up and you give those out to friends or sell them to friends or something like that. And that kind of, what I found is that kind of falls into an artisan culinary thing here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Okay. Yeah, because I've looked at one of the guys that I'm a big fan of is Curtis Stone, the urban farmer Curtis Stone, and I took one of his little short microgreen courses, and pretty much that what he was saying was that that you want to get like some type of like insurance, I guess, but you can go ahead and just get started, and you just get started in the farmers markets and things like that.
Yeah, there are ways that kind of lower the barrier of entry.
Yeah. So let's see. It looks like I might be dropping some frames. I don't see any that I'm dropping any frames, but let me lower my bit rate and see if that works. See if that's helping at all. I do this off of a wireless laptop, and so Rondon informed me last week that it's not so good using.
Like he wants you to directly connect.
Yeah, it's not so good using a wireless connection because it puts a lot of demand when you're streaming. So yeah, I turned down the bit rate, so hopefully everything's looking good on OBS right now. So hopefully everything's good. So
Well, cool.
Okay.
Looks like.
So you told me before the show here. Yeah, we always blame Shane. Yep, that's right. So you told me a little bit before the show here that you're in the process of moving to a new location.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead. It sounded like you were about to ask a question.
Yeah. So you're gonna be able to do some more experimentation and be able to grow outside and things like that. And I saw that you had gotten in contact with Sage Scrub on steemit, and he sent you a nice little seed package.
Yeah. I'm really excited about that. So right now I have a garden in my closet that I'm looking to automate eventually. And so in this new location that I'm moving to, it'll be really nice to have some space outside where I can, start a garden outside and kind of experiment with maybe the difference between growing inside and growing outside, as well as, I'll be able to use the seeds that Sage Scrub gave me. Right now, I actually have kale. I planted some of the kale seeds that he sent, and the plants are still pretty small, maybe 3 or 4 inches tall. But it'll be nice to have some space outside to plant them and see how they'll do.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I gotta have it wired. All right, yeah. So yeah, hopefully I'm not having any more more problems here, but yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, Sage Scrub is a really great guy, and the whole Homesteaders Co-op is a project that I really like. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, man. So that move is exciting, huh? So you told me a little that you have a dog, and he's getting a little into getting a little excited for the move and everything.
So we were taking some stuff over to the place today, and I come back home, and my dog was he actually pulled an entire loaf of bread off of the counter and ate it, and he also climbed onto a shelf and he grabbed tissue paper off the shelf and spread that all over the place. So his behavior lately is changing. It's out of the usual.
Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, sorry. Oh man, I guess I got some issues going on here today.
I know whenever I'm doing my show, if I'm dropping frames, it always makes me like lose track or lose my train of thought and stuff. And
yeah. So yeah. So what kind of equipment? What kind of equipment are you looking to get? Are you have you ever heard of John Kohler and growingyourgreens.com?
No, I haven't. So I currently use currently use a grow light. I'm pulling up the exact name right now. Um, it was really nice. I got it on Amazon. It looks like I can't find it. Let's see if I have um. So I currently use a grow light that has a 2 foot by 2 foot flowering area and a 3 foot by 3 foot sprouting area. And then under that, I went to Home Depot and I got some wood to create a 2 foot by 2 foot box. I haven't had a chance to fill that up with dirt yet, since I'll be moving. But my plan is to fill that up. And I just sit that on top of some kind of egg crates, and the egg crates and the whole setup sits on top of like a canvas tarp so that it catches any kind of debris that may fall. The grow light is held up by a string, and I went to Home Depot and I grabbed like what is it called? You know, a shower curtain, like a shower curtain rod. I have that going from one wall to the other wall, and I reinforced it with some Velcro and stuff. It's really bootstrapped, but it's sturdy. It's pretty sturdy. It can hold like, I don't know, maybe 35, 40 pounds.
Yeah.
But the grow light's only like it's probably less than 10. And
Yeah.
so I hang the grow light above this 2 foot by 2 foot box. And yeah, that's a setup.
Okay.
Now that's the setup. Now the automation setup is a little bit different. For the automation setup, I have a Raspberry Pi, and to that I connect some sensors. So I'm able to turn on the Raspberry Pi, run the Python scripts that I have on it for each individual sensor that I have running, and then I'm able to collect a little bit of information such as like temperature and humidity, as well as soil moisture, and what else? I also have like I have a relay connected to the Raspberry Pi that's supposed to open and close a valve so that water, it can water the garden. I can attach the valve to a container that holds water to water the garden whenever I need. That's all that's all a work in progress.
Yeah.
That's the hardware equipment that I'm using.
Oh, that's really cool, man. Yeah, those I had on and I just see my technology trail joined us that I had him on last week, and he does a lot of stuff with Raspberry Pi, so he's a good resource for information on all that kind of stuff. But
I'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah, so you've been self-teaching yourself on how to set all these sensors up and everything like that, huh?
Yeah, so that's a funny part. So I've been working with my friend in New Jersey. He's really into IT and he wants to learn Python and all of this stuff. So I was telling him about this Raspberry Pi that I got and how I want to automate a garden and set up some sensors and collect this data, and he thought that was really interesting. So we started piecing together these Python scripts using YouTube tutorials and trying to learn what these scripts are doing and how they're doing it, while also learning how to put the hardware together and all of this stuff. And so we came to a point where we were trying to get the soil moisture sensor to trigger a relay so that the valve can open and close, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I scheduled some meetings with some local entrepreneurs. There's here in Louisville, there's like they call it the startup ecosystem, and basically it's a number of entrepreneurs that kind of come together and meet and kind of talk about the resources available in Kentucky. So I went to one of those, scheduled a meeting with somebody through that, where they told me about a makerspace here in Louisville, Kentucky. Now I took this Raspberry Pi and my sensors and this valve and all this stuff over there to look for some help. I went twice. The first time I went was an introduction, and I kind of learned about this space and all that time. And they told me to come back. They told me to come back on a specified like code day where there's a group of people that are like programmers, who know like a wide variety of languages. So I waited for that day. I kept trying to work on the project and waited for that day, and I brought the setup there on that day. Now, after explaining to them the project and what I'm looking to do and the trouble that I'm having, they kind of looked at me and said, well, you're going to have to learn Python. And so I went home and I thought, well, I guess I'm going to have to learn Python. So my friend and I started a Slack channel called Learning Python, and we invited some other people. And so now we have a Slack channel of maybe 6 people where our objective is to work through a book called Learning Python 3 the Hard Way.
Oh, cool.
So we're currently working through this book. I'm on exercise 22 right now. So hopefully we can get through, I think there's 50 or 60 exercises, and hopefully we can get through that and start to understand how these Python scripts work a little bit better, so that we'll be able to kind of automate this garden a little bit better.
That's awesome, man. So you guys have got a little support group together. You guys are all learning together, and that's a really great thing to do. And it's like, anything in any kind of project, I used to do project management, and one of the first things is first things first. So you have to identify, the first what your first step should be. So so it sounds like the first step is getting more familiar and learning the Python to be able to code and everything. And it looks like My Tech Trail just recommended a website. The people that do Raspberry Pi, it's learn.adria or adafruit.com, and looks like that could be a good resource as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that. The name Adafruit is familiar. The temperature humidity sensor that we use uses an Adafruit library, so the name Adafruit is familiar. It makes me happy to see that.
I believe that they're the guys that build the Raspberry Pis, and so I think they do all the. I think when I talked to My Tech Trail last week, they do a whole suite of learning and products for Raspberry Pi and everything like that, and so they're that's definitely the thing that I think that we could all use, and will kind of be the next, instead of public education, I'd kind of like to see a lot of self-education. And I think that a lot of that is happening now, because a lot of people are seeing that their ROI on getting a degree, or and things like that, going to college, a lot of people, that's not paying out. So you need to, a a lot of people are looking more into people that are out there doing things and learning kind of, trial by fire kind of things. And it's going to be a big industry, I believe. It's the self-education and being able to teach people, what you're learning and what you've learned through the School of Hard Knocks is going to be a big industry.
Mm-hmm.
I recently sat in on a workshop where it was Tony Robbins and then it was another gentleman. But they were presenting the information on self-education now, and that's kind of partially where I'm going to target and head towards myself, is to do physical on location workshops and then also online workshops. So, and online courses. So it might be something that you might be interested in as well.
Yeah, so it's actually really cool that you say that, because so I started this. I guess I'll go back towards the beginning. When I had gotten started on steemit, I created a Discord called From the Ground Up, and the Discord kind of started as a way to kind of support other communities on steemit. So I had like a community leader like meeting, and Agrode came and some other people that were working on projects on steemit came, and from there things kind of developed, and I kind of promote different communities in a channel and have like a post promotion, but that developed into kind of an open forum to talk about food, tech, and media and business, right? And one of the projects within this Discord that I made was called Learning to Be a Food Entrepreneur, where it's just like, that's what I call it, but it could really be whatever. And so through that, I made like an Instagram account where I kind of track progress of like product development and stuff. And then I also have all the information of trying to automate this garden. And then I also have a podcast on Anchor that also distributes to like Spotify and all of that, that kind of talks about the entire progress from beginning on Steam to where I am today, to kind of, you're talking about self-education, and that's kind of my way of tracking the progress of what I learn as I learn, so that people in the future can go back and listen to that and kind of learn from my experience of learning. I don't know if that makes sense, but
No, yeah, that's really, the things that you're documenting and that you're recording, that they say the difference between doing research and just goofing around is that you're writing it down, and so all that stuff is definitely, I'm on actually the same page as you right now, is that I'm kind of building up a repertoire of things that I'm learning from and trying to be able to coalesce all that stuff into, an online educational business kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So like, ultimately, from the ground up, Discord, what I'd like for that to turn into is kind of a network of people, or entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, or people who currently own companies, to kind of teach each other or work with each other. If somebody comes in and has a question about a certain industry, or I'll use farming as an example. If somebody comes in and they say, hey, I'd like to start a farm, what are some things I should consider? Hopefully, maybe in the future there will be an experienced farmer in this group that can say, hey, maybe these things are the things you need to consider, and maybe relationships can develop, and maybe people can start working on projects together within this Discord, or branch off from the Discord and work on their own projects.
Yeah, that's great, man. Do you have a link to that Discord group?
Yeah,
that you'd like to throw down in there?
sure.
It's called From the Ground Up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And so, I mean, so far we've had, hold on, for some reason it's not pasting.
Okay.
So far we've had artists that have come in, graphic designers. I think there have been, farmers that have come in. And hold on one moment. There we go. I think I got it now.
Very cool. Yeah, I dig it, man. That's one of the things that I went and did this like adventure trip a long time ago, but I ran into some people and a guy down in close to Miami and in Fort Lauderdale in Florida, and he was inspired by that the guy that did the McDonald's documentary where he ate nothing but McDonald's for a little while, and he Morgan Spurlock, I think that it was the guy's name, but
the Super Size Me.
Yeah, Super Size Me, and I think he had done another documentary that was all about just taking action and trying different things. And so what this guy, his name's Dynamo, but what he did was he created something called the Action Club, and it's kind of like what you're talking about, is that it's a group of people that are kind of a support network to support each other in their dreams and goals and visions in life. And so it is good to as an entrepreneur, as somebody that's trying to go off on and do their own thing, I believe it is really good to have a support network, because sometimes it feels like you're all alone a lot of times.
Yeah, and it's really interesting to see some of the people in here. I think there was someone who has a landscaping company in Georgia that was in here, kind of showing equipment and talking about kind of what he does. And I thought that was really neat. Ryan Price is his name on the Discord. And I thought that was really cool. And then right after that was somebody in school, Leo Lucas Graphics, who is currently working on graphic design. And I don't know, I thought that was really cool. And who knows, in the future, if the landscaper that's in the group needs a logo, and he says, "Oh, I know somebody in this Discord who's a graphic designer," maybe that sparks future business. So I don't know. Hopefully it'll create kind of like a feedback loop, and people will want to work together or learn together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great vision, and definitely having having people around that can be a support. And you never know that I kind of feel like we may move into a time of a lot of abundance, and then having that abundance mindset, that was something that I saw in that recent video with the John Kohler guy that I mentioned earlier. Was he went to a farming operation. It was a hydroponics farming operation in Texas, and instead of this guy believing that he has to beat out all the competition, he has more of a cooperative mentality and an abundance mindset, and he started pretty much a website where the local farmers can put their products up there and tell you like what's fresh, and then the chefs that he's connected to, he created like a little distribution out of his area, and he connects those farmers to the chefs and everything. So I think that's the model that's kind of changing now, is that people that accept that you can still be competitive but also be cooperative is something that creates abundance.
Yeah, I recently, I was watching an interview with a guy named Charlie Munger, and he mentioned somebody called named Adam Smith, and so I started researching a little bit. Adam Smith. I watched like a documentary on YouTube. It was maybe an hour and a half long, and Adam Smith was an economist and philosopher, and he was talking about the invisible hand that guides markets and everything. And in one of his this documentary was saying, in one of his books, he talks about opening up markets and allowing people to work together and cooperatively. It can increase the overall production of a nation.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the power of the free market, and unfortunately, they don't. You don't get taught a lot of these things when you're going through schooling. It's something that the whole public education system lacks on teaching you things about free market economics. It's more geared towards the Keynesian style of economics, where it's all fueled by debt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about economics. I'm always trying to learn as much as possible. I think when I had gotten started on steemit, and simultaneously I was trying to learn about markets and stocks, bonds, like finance and stuff like that, and just kind of catch up on some things that I never learned in school.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I've been a really nerdy guy for a long time. A lot of people read the fantasy novels and things like that, but I was also always looking for books on, I guess because I knew from an early age I wanted to be some kind of entrepreneur or work for myself. And so I've always been into nerdy stuff like biographies and economics and politics and things like that. And so I kind of deep dived into some of that stuff earlier on and learned the difference in the Austrian model of economics and the Keynesian model of economics. And those were like two theories that popped up back in the day and coming out of the Industrial Revolution. And so they pretty much give you two different worldviews on how economies can work. And so the Keynesian model is all about trying to control and have a centralized control over the market, pretty much through manipulating interest rates and doing debt. And that's how a lot of these that's how the Federal Reserve Bank runs the whole operation as it stands now. But the Austrian model is about real savings and actually using real savings, because that translates to real production in the market. And so those savings actually represent the energy or the appropriate use of resources in the market. And so those are the kind of the competing worlds. And unfortunately, the world has been taught and pushed the Keynesian model of things. And so that's kind of that's the paradigm that we live in now. But on the opposite side of the spectrum, with the Austrian model, if you work towards that Austrian model, it's a more natural way of of being, because it's just like the laws of conservation of energy. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another. So what they do when they print all this extra money and they manipulate interest rates is they are, making something from nothing. And so that throws everything off. So it doesn't actually operate true to nature.
I'll have to learn more about Keynesian economics in Austrian school. I'd never known kind of the difference between the two. When people talk about economics and stuff like that, I just always think of one thing. But I guess it makes sense that there's multiple ways to think about economics.
Right, and that's very cool that you're introduced to Adam Smith, because Adam Smith is bringing you into that Austrian school of economics, and so there's some that leads you down the whole rabbit hole of the Federal Reserve, learning about the Federal Reserve, and then you read The Creature from Jekyll Island, and then it all spirals from there.
Well, yeah. So here's the thing. Like, I'll listen to like CNBC or Bloomberg or something like that, and everybody's talking about, or like, I don't know, months ago, everybody was talking about the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates, and I'm thinking, why are they increasing interest rates? Like, what's their rationale? Like, why? I don't know. Why does that make sense? Why did they lower interest rates in the first place? And it just sparks like a big, like a whole bunch of different questions. And then me, who I am as a person, my instinct is to try to learn as much as possible.
Yeah.
About it.
Right. And so the reason that they're manipulating those interest rates like they do is because if they can tick those interest rates up, then they're trying to encourage people to save, right? And to stop printing as much money. But if they flood the market with all this money, then you want lower interest rates to encourage people to buy, right? Because then people take out loans and do different things. So they're trying to centrally control the market by manipulating interest rates. But that also leads them to the control of the market, so that they could kill the market at any point by, causing all this inflation and debt that people are incurring by the falsely low interest rates that haven't moved with the market, because they're creating something from nothing, and so they've created this bubble. That's how they create bubbles. They've created this bubble in all these things, and since they control those interest rates, all they have to do is keep pushing them higher and higher until nobody can pay, or there's not enough real production out there anymore to be able to pay off the interest, and so they can crash the economy doing that. And so, tumbling down the rabbit hole. You can see how insidious it is when they can centrally control things like that, and one of the most insidious things is inflation. When they print something from nothing, or they create something out of nothing, it destroys your purchasing power as you go through time, and so your dollar buys less and less, or the money that we all rely on to keep the economy going, it buys you less and less over time as there's a giant supply that's created. So, economics is everything, really, and it's all kind of tied to the natural, kind of the natural order of things. And so it's kind of the dichotomy of how everything works. Like, do you wish to control others, or do you wish them to have like the free will and to make the mistakes and let everything kind of self-correct through the markets?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, sorry for the. See, I am really nerdy on this stuff.
No, like that's really cool. I mean, it's interesting to me, and I mean, you seem pretty knowledgeable. I mean, more knowledgeable than me. So I mean, I'll listen and learn what I can, and so thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a very interesting rabbit hole, and I suggest everybody that's going on that journey to start with G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. And once you make it through that book, you'll get a whole nother worldview of how things got to where they are now. So
What is the name of the book?
it's called The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Okay.
Yeah. But that is a great book to read, and G. Edward Griffin is just a powerhouse researcher as well. So he's also wrote several other books, including one called A World Without Cancer, which is another really great read. And he went into the whole thing behind cancer cures that have been suppressed. And that is another one that is really fascinating to read as well, because it relates to food and things.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, talking about like cancer, something that I've learned about food is the anti-proliferative effects of that just means it can suppress the spread of cancerous cells, like compounds in foods like blueberries and strawberries, called anthocyanins. So some of the stuff that I've read, some of the stuff that I've read shows that like these compounds called phytonutrients that come from all sorts of foods, but typically like fruits and the pigments in fruits can have anti-proliferative effects, which just means you eat enough of them and they can kind of help prevent the spread of I think it was tumor cells, colon tumor cells.
Yeah.
Specifically. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've been looking into a lot of that stuff myself, and there is a really good evidence that kind of shows kind of adopting more of like a fruit based diet is really good for you. There's a lot of properties in the fruit that can that just help with your overall biological processes. And while it does have sugar, but it's sugar in the form of fructose, natural fructose, and so it's a lot better for you than a lot of our processed processed sugars and things like that. So
so there's a professor in the food science department at Cornell. I think his name is Dr. Ruhai Liu, and I think he's extracted one of these phytonutrients from a food. I'm not exactly sure which one. I think he injected it directly into like breast cancer cells, and he saw a reduction either in the size or a reduction of the number of breast cancer cells.
yeah,
I thought that was wild. Like that, that's awesome to read. And
yeah, and a lot of it is that kind of, if you kind of think about it as maybe it's a little metaphysical, but the trees and plants, they are gifting you things. The fruit is like a gift that they give you from their growth, whereas you kind of have to take life when you're eating from animals and things like that. Not to say that I am not to say that I am like a vegan or anything like that in my personal life, but the evidence that I'm reading and things that I'm researching are kind of pointing me in the direction toward going more heavily into eating more fruits and having like a fruit-based diet.
Mm-hmm. So the interesting thing about having a fruit-based diet is there's somebody from MIT who's working on a food computer. That's what he calls it. Let's see if I can. Hold on. Now his argument is that it takes an entire year for an apple to go from picked off of a tree to eaten by you after you buy it from the grocery store. So he says by that time, all the nutrients in this apple are gone, or the nutrients are no longer available, right?
Yeah.
And so these he says apples, by the time they get picked up at the grocery store and you eat them, they're basically just a source of sugar. They're just an empty ball of sugar, and the nutrients have degraded away. So so my background's food science, so stuff like modified atmosphere storage really interests me. You take a refrigerator and you fill it up with some CO2, some oxygen, some nitrogen, and you make your own special formula of environment or like atmosphere inside a refrigerator, and you can extend the shelf life of something like an apple or a fruit in general, right? That sounds really interesting to me. And at first glance, I'm like, wow, that sounds great. You can extend the shelf life of food. How much longer can you extend it? That means you can get the food to so many more people, right? But now we're seeing kind of the long-term disadvantages of that kind of system. So from my perspective, although people in the food industry have built these technologies and these systems to solve a need from 100 years ago, we're not necessarily seeing those same problems now.
Yeah, precisely. And you think about the real cost of moving these foods all over the world as well, and you have to, just like you're saying, by the time the food gets to you, it's almost dead. There's nothing good left in it. It's just kind of empty calories and things. And so that's why I've become a real proponent of local food production and trying to do things like the aquaponics and then permaculture gardening and things like that, because I believe that's going to be the key to our health and nutrition in the future, is to be able to use our current technology to make us much, much more productive, and have a lot of, just like you're talking about, have automated food production, but that allows us to give the consumer live products that have the nutrients packed in, instead of trucking it several miles and using all that gasoline and all that stuff to get it to you. And it's, by the time it gets to you, it's not alive. It doesn't have anything good in it for you anymore. So
yeah, I mean, I think a lot could be done. I think a lot could be done from the distribution standpoint in the food industry. Because I went to a food distribution facility in Kansas City, and it was this huge facility. Like, I don't know, they had refrigerated rooms they had refrigerated rooms the size of like 2 or 3 football fields, and the whole goal of this facility is to just refrigerate food. And I'm sitting there thinking, in a jacket, in a hat and gloves, in this refrigerated facility. I'm thinking, how much energy are they using refrigerating all of this stuff so that they can keep it cool enough to get it like 2 states away from here, you know?
Right.
And this distribution center had like, I don't know how many loading docks it had by a specific number, but it definitely had more than 10 loading docks, right? And they had these large semi trucks, 16-wheelers, pulling up to these loading docks, having everything loaded on, and then they're trucking that stuff using all of that. Do 16-wheelers use diesel fuel?
Yeah.
So they're using these trucks that use diesel fuel to get this produce that just spent a day or 2 days in this giant refrigerated facility, and they're sending that 2 states away to go sit in a refrigerator somewhere else, and hopefully somebody picks it up at the grocery store. But if they don't pick it up at the grocery store soon enough, it gets thrown away, right?
Yeah, and absolutely, and I've followed. There's even more that goes to that is that there's so much waste. There's so much food waste because they have to throw away like just even good food that's not even rotting and things like that after a certain amount of time. And there's a YouTuber out there, Rob Greenfield, that he lived off of dumpster diving from grocery stores and things like that for a long time, just living off of the food that they throw away. And it's just incredible the amount of food waste that we have in our system that's going on now. And a lot of that is that it's a factor for that just on time delivery, and just like you're talking about how the food industry has built this system and it's actually pretty destructive when you look at the entire thing. So it's one of the things that I'm very passionate about right now, and the solution. So what's the solution? Is I think it's going back to more of a local production, and I think in going into the future, there's so many opportunities now to become a local food producer and a farmer.
Mm-hmm. So my experience I was working at a food company called the Local Food Center in Mansfield, Missouri, and the whole goal of the Local Food Center was to help the farmers and connect local produce to local institutions to kind of get more local food into the food system. Pardon me. And so I really think while I was there, I kind of learned about, market pricing of produce and how farmers are really getting like, I don't know. We went, I would go to this produce auction, and I would talk about this on Lazy Sundays a little bit, but I'd go to this produce auction, and farmers would bring, their daily harvest to this produce auction, and they'd have 2, 3, sometimes 4 pallets of produce that they're looking to sell. Right now, the people who are looking to buy that produce were kind of they weren't businesses or institutions. They were kind of like everyday people. Now, everyday people, they might not need 3 or 4 pallets of tomatoes. They might not need 2,000 pounds of tomatoes, but they might need, maybe 10 pounds or 20 pounds of tomatoes. And so what would happen is sometimes the tomatoes and the produce would go for extremely cheap prices. Like, I don't even know if so cheap to the point, I don't even know if the farmers were making money. And I didn't think, I don't know, it seemed like I don't know, it didn't seem too beneficial or encouraging to be a farmer when I was at these produce auctions.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I guess it's just the way the system is set up right now, and there I think you really have to get really creative. You have to be really artisan about your food now and to appeal to a specific market. And that was so profound of what I saw last night. And the name of the farm is Profound Foods, but they're a hydroponically grown food production in northern Texas, I believe. And they are changing they've changed the model on how to make it a successful business doing hydroponics. They cater specifically to the chefs in their area that are looking for specific and kind of like exotic things that the hydroponic farmer can do, and target specifically for individual chefs. And so he's kind of created a brand new way to add additional value to the chefs by being able to grow the specific things that they're looking for. And then also in their model that they do these farm tours where you get to you can pay and take an individual journey with the farmer, and he'll show you how all his systems are working and how the food production works, and what kind of methods does he use to help with pests and different things like that. And then that he also has a commercial kitchen on his farm, and so they can have lunches and things and make it into a whole experience with this farming. So
I don't know too much about hydroponic farming. I know that we were speaking with a hydroponic lettuce farmer who were doing, I think, bib lettuce. I think they were doing hydroponic bib lettuce close by to us in Mansfield, Missouri. And I always thought that was novel. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see their facility, but I thought it sounded cool. But their model was to, I think, rent out space in their hydroponic system, or I think they rented out lots in their hydroponic system. So if you wanted lettuce like 2 months from now, you rent the lot now and then get the lettuce later. And then if you continuously lease the lot, you can keep receiving the lettuce. I think that's how they.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think there's just all kinds of ways to get really inventive with it right now. And one of the suggestions by this hydroponic farmer was to start small, and then just try to find your niche market with your. He used chefs, and the great thing about chefs is that they have their schedule all planned out and their meals all planned out, and so you have like a guaranteed revenue stream that can get you started and get you to as you grow your network of chefs, and that you're catering to their needs and doing your specific growing to their needs, that that you can keep expanding out from there, and just connect that restaurant kind of farmer relationship, and that can really help you get bootstrapped and get started, instead of just going to the farmer's market and showing up with your product and
hoping that it sells.
Yeah, hoping that it sells, and then you might have to come back and have to compost the rest or whatever. That you have a guaranteed production that you can follow. And I think it's a really great model. And plus, with hydroponic farming, one of the things, hydroponic and aquaponic farming, but hydroponic takes out you're having to keep a living ecosystem going. It takes that out of the equation. But you're able to produce and give your customer a living product, because when you're taking it out of your aquaponic system, it's still alive, and so you're giving them something that's still alive, and then the chefs, when they want to use it in their production, when you put that and store that, then it has a lot longer shelf life than the just-in-time delivery system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we got some samples of the hydroponic lettuce, and I think they said the shelf life was like a couple weeks because it was still alive. It still had its roots, and it came when they gave us the samples. It came in I don't know what it's called, but it's like I don't know. It was a little maybe cylinder. I don't know. What's the medium you grow hydroponic produce in?
A lot of people use rock wool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it might have been that. And so when we got the samples, they said just keep it refrigerated at like I don't know the exact degrees or temperature that they told us to store it at. But they said do that and it should last around 2 weeks or so, which I thought was really nice. So then you can have fresh food whenever you look to have it, and you can pick it yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought that would be a really neat thing that was kind of one of the visions with my aquaponics is as I grow and as I learn, I would like to do like a commercial aquaponics production and do exactly that, where you could show up and you could just pick out of the production facility your fresh greens and whatever you want to do, and it would be like a living grocery.
That sounds awesome. A living grocery store?
Yeah.
That sounds so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So you would just like go walk through the store, everything's growing, and then you just pick what you want, and then you go to the checkout, you get it all weighed out and everything, and you just buy it, as fresh as it can be, still alive and growing.
I wonder if you can do like berry bushes.
Yeah.
Just walk over and pick some berries and
soil and wicking beds, I think, may have the ability to do some of that stuff. So you can marry the two, which is the technology of the hydroponic and aquaponic farming, and the soil based farming, and the wicking beds are a really great example of that, because you're feeding all your water into a basin at the bottom of the bed, which is usually like a rock layer. And so the roots want to seek that rock layer and that water source down at the bottom of the bed. And you get like no evaporation because you're inputting the water into the bottom of these beds, so that you've eliminated evaporation, being able to save a lot of water. So I believe if you can marry those two with the hydroponics or the aquaponics, you can use that water and put into the system of your wicking beds as well. And you could possibly do all your soil type gardening and things that need to have stable soil, and grow things like you're talking about, possibly berry bushes. I don't know of anybody that's done that yet, or even tried to attempt to do it indoors yet, but I believe it's possible.
Yeah. So when I think of kind of like urban farming or like new systems of farming, I think of the cost of labor. Like my first instinct is to think of the cost of labor and like how much. Because I mean, my first job was as a farmhand, and I remember, they were paying me to, put plants in the ground, like put starters in the ground. They were paying me to wash vegetables and box them up for the farmers market, and I mean, they'd pay me to help bring irrigation pipes into the field, and I think about all the things that I was doing, the work that I was doing. And so my initial thought is kind of how do you reduce the labor in a on a farm? And then my second thought is, I think there's a lot of support out there. I think if I Google, large scale farming, I could find a lot of support um, in um, in the disadvantages of scale farming. So I think, what if we scale it down? How much produce can actually be um, grown on 1 acre of land, right? So how do we grow as much yield as possible on 1 acre of land with the lowest possible labor rate, in in order to have, you know as much produce for as little cost as possible, because that's essentially what we want to do. I think those are the challenges we're facing today. Are how do we get high nutrient density, how do we get high yield in area, and how do we reduce the amount of time it takes to go from the farm to somebody's house, right? The problems that we used to be facing is, crap, how do we feed everybody? Like, how do we feed all the people in the world?
Right.
So the idea of having mega farms that, and then shipping food in mega containers to a distribution facility that can then spread it out in a large area, in these big centralized food distribution, manufacturing, and farming areas, that used to be a good idea. But because it solved the problem we used to be facing. But now that we know a little bit more, and we know the disadvantages of that kind of system, I think we really I don't know. I think we kind of have developed new problems and solutions to solve those problems.
Yeah. So Team Humble set it up a little while back up here. He said that in New York City they have 40% food waste in the system, and that he helped out some food centers in New York City, and yeah, it just like you're saying, it's just this thing evolved to try to feed everybody, and this system evolved, and it's centralized. But I think even with cryptocurrencies and everything that we're doing right now, that we're involved in with steemit, in the cryptocurrency realm, the whole ethos is to decentralize. And I think decentralization is the key to the future, because it creates more resilient systems. You don't have these choke points of these centralized systems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I remember. Okay, so at the local food center, we applied for a grant. We applied for a government grant. To get money for a truck so that we could, go to the auction, load up a food truck, and then bring it to an institution. Because at the time, I was using like my personal vehicle. I drive my personal vehicle to the produce auction. I'd bring it back to our facility. I'd wash it and then load it back up into my car and then take it to the institution. And I don't know. I can just see. I don't know. I'm really. I've really been trying to learn as much as possible about food in the current food system, and so when I look at what's out there, what's being done research wise out there, and then I look at the inefficiencies that I've personally experienced, I can't help but to think, what if we just do things slightly different this way? I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that is the ticket for, there's so much opportunity there now that, that's why all these market gardeners are being successful. Guys like Curtis Stone and, the hydroponic farmer that I described earlier in the, I would definitely suggest, going to check out those guys and this Profound Foods, guys that are doing this hydroponic model in northern Texas. And I think that they have a really great model. The guy, his background story was that he hadn't even farmed 2 years ago, and he bought this little piece of land, and he wanted to do farming because it was kind of that romanticized idea that I'll be able to operate a farm and be able to work from home and do all that kind of stuff. And and he just taught himself. He taught himself how to do all this stuff and watched a lot of YouTube videos and just started small by making those connections with those chefs and things like that. So I think there's a great opportunity out there right now to look at these models and the ones that are working and the guys that are building and have built these really cool models and try to replicate and grow on their ideas as well.
Wow.
So
yeah, I mean, I look forward to learning more about Profound Foods, and I don't know, man. So far, you have provided me with a lot of information. I look forward to learning more.
Yeah, and it's what you're doing is so great because you're learning about how to set up those automation systems, and once you get that initial automation down, it's just scaling that up, right? And just maybe using a higher voltage to run bigger pumps and things like that. But once you get that coding down for the smaller systems and doing all that, then you just have to scale that up, and then you've got the formula.
Oh, well, thank you for. Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to learn, and I don't know. Right now I'm trying to get through these learning Python the hard way exercises as as fast as possible while still being able to kind of comprehend what's going on.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's somebody commented on one of my posts recently, and I everything that I'm posting about, I'm trying to be as open about what I'm doing as I'm just telling you what's going on, all my failures and all that stuff, and showing you the story as I go. And somebody commented recently and said, you take it one day at a time, one step at a time, one thing at a time. And and that was a really cool comment that I got from fellow Steemian that dropped in and actually read what I was doing and doing that kind of stuff, and I love getting that interaction on Steemit instead of some people that are just like, hey, great post.
Upvote this comment.
Yeah. When I first got on Steemit, that was something else I was going to ask you, is like how you made your way to Steemit originally.
Oh, just through research. I was I was interested in starting a food company, so I was thinking, how can I raise funds? How can I raise funds to buy equipment to start a food company? And then I started researching cryptocurrency, and I found Coinbase. Here's what I did. I found Coinbase, right? Or Coin Market Cap, I mean.
Yeah.
I found CoinMarketCap, and I went down the list and I read the white papers for every cryptocurrency.
Wow.
And I got to Steemit, and I was like, Steemit, nice. Let me try this out. And so I tried Steemit out and made an introductory post and all of that stuff. And yeah, then I thought maybe this will help me buy some equipment to start a food company.
Great. So my brain skipped me, but my technology trail that's here with us, it was his comment that he left on my thing. It was from that he got from somebody else, Prepper Nurse 1 on YouTube. So my tech trail, yeah, man, I appreciate you a lot. He's a really cool guy. And I got to talk to him that last week, but yeah, definitely you got to get linked up with him. Because he's got a wealth of knowledge with the Raspberry Pi computers. There's so many things you can do with those things. It's just amazing now, and it all it even helps out with the decentralization in cryptocurrencies as well, because you're able to use those. You can buy a bunch of those Raspberry Pi computers and run like a server farm off of them, pretty much, because you can have like little terabyte little hard drives connected to each one, and be able to store videos and things like that through the IPFS system and stuff. So there's so much opportunities out there right now.
Yeah.
But
it's funny that you say that, because somebody named Graylin, I think he's in PAL every once in a while. He said he has like a media center. He has a media center that he runs with something called an Orange Pi. I think it's similar to Raspberry Pi. I don't know what exactly the differences are. But he says he runs a media center off of it and has like videos and photos and stuff like that on it. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, Graylin actually helped me get set up with setting up my old desktop computer to be an IPFS node. So yeah, he's got a wealth of information. He's been doing that stuff and doing the One Love DTube for a long time, and really believes in the decentralization and everything like that. And yeah, he's a really great guy. They said a comment up here in the chat was that was a fuck ton of white papers, man.
Yeah, I didn't know. Like, so my thought process was, okay, if I'm gonna do this cryptocurrency thing, like, I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So like, I couldn't recite you a cryptocurrency's white paper word for word, right? But I read enough enough white papers to like get a concept of what each cryptocurrency is looking to do, kind of get an understanding of the vision of a cryptocurrency.
Yeah, man.
A blockchain, I should say.
Yeah, there's yeah, I was a lot into that research mode, and then all these ICOs pop up. That was the crazy time. That last year when all these ICOs were coming out and everything like that, and most of those are defunct projects. A lot of them are kind of defunct projects now, but it was like crazy times it's crazy times still trying to keep up with all the information that's going on in cryptocurrency. It moves so fast. But yes,
you're right about that. I think one of the first things I heard was like a year in the cryptocurrency space is like a decade in like the stock market or something.
yeah, absolutely. And it's there's so many moving pieces to this thing now, but it is truly a free market where people are able to try their ideas out, and it's it's kind of an example of what a true free market looks like. And so you are having these crazy swings in prices and things like that because people are still trying to figure out what it is and how to use it, and different use cases and things. So
yeah, there's a lot of carrot stuff going
I know
on.
Man. We got patient zero coming in with the sexual innuendos about all the fruit and all the food sexual innuendos going on here. I do appreciate Patient Zero and all his dank memes. He's usually in all our shows, and he's dropping some dank memes, so I appreciate it. It makes it hilarious. So with your Lazy Sunday show, are you gonna be continuing doing that? You really enjoy doing that show?
Yeah, I like doing Lazy Sundays. It's really cool because not only do I get to update listeners on progress that I'm making, kind of in a weekly basis. My steemit posts started off, every couple of days, and then the length between them became longer. Then it was like a week between them, then a month, and now I'm trying to do them kind of more quarterly. So that way I have more, more to talk about in a Steemit post. And then, so Lazy Sundays kind of turned into weekly progress of everything that's going on, while also incorporating, pardon me, discussions with the listeners. And the really cool thing that I like is sometimes Lazy Sundays turns into like a brainstorming thing where ideas pop up, and then I can quickly like run out and implement those ideas. Like, here's an example. One time during a Lazy Sundays, Petchy, who's sometimes in PalNet, Petchy came up with an idea to send somebody, Paintings Angels, or Serena, Dippin' Dots. So I sent her Dippin' Dots, and then got like a reaction. She came on the show the next week, or I think 2 weeks after maybe, and kind of told everybody what Dippin' Dots were like, since she had never had them before. She was trying them for the first time. And so I think stuff like that's really cool. Also, like last or 2 weeks ago, the idea of testing out the Brave browser came up. So I downloaded the Brave browser and started using that. So sometimes it gets really cool, and some neat ideas can pop up and surface, and then it gives me stuff to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. And I like the format that you do for your show, where you kind of have like the chill music playing in the background and just kind of hanging out and chatting with the audience. Yeah, that's something that I think that's a really good format for doing the show, especially these live shows where you have the audience interaction and things like that. It makes the experience so much cooler by being part of the audience and being part of the conversation.
Well, thank you very much. Who knows what it could turn into? I've plotted the idea of setting up a camera and kind of doing kind of in a table and kind of doing a more formal kind of show. Maybe add some video. Maybe get guests to come in person. Who knows? That's a good thing about MSP Waves is you can really make it what you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just growing in this area. A lot of people that kind of start off doing these things, they don't maybe necessarily see themselves making that their big thing, but you never know how things evolve over time, and and how you're going to enjoy the different things. So it's pretty just like you said, you never know where things will take you.
Yeah.
So I did notice that you do have a lack of posts on Steemit. Do you plan on doing more posting or uploading the videos? Do you do recordings of your Lazy Sunday show? Is there a place that people can check those out, or is it all just live?
Mm-hmm. So I used to do recordings of Lazy Sundays, and I maxed out the space on my hard drive from recording these 2-hour long videos, because I wanted to keep like my own archives as well. So I stopped recording them for a couple months now. I don't know the exact amount of time, but I just got a new solid state drive, and I'm really excited about it. It gives me another 500 gigs, so I'd like to continue recording the broadcasts. I also used to post the broadcasts on from the ground up on Steemit. It was at FTGU, and that was kind of where I first started posting these broadcasts, but that's kind of fallen to the wayside. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open to recording them, posting them again. My my posts on my personal steemit page, I look forward to like continuing to post and update about about projects and everything like that. I'm not sure if I'd like to post Lazy Sundays broadcasts on my personal profile. That's I don't know. That's just me being nitpicky, I guess. But yeah, that's my plan. Oh, also, I guess it's important to say that Lazy Sundays used to be called From the Ground Up.
Oh, okay.
So the whole From the Ground Up Discord, that was also its own steemit profile, and also had From the Ground Up broadcast. We changed From the Ground Up broadcast to Lazy Sundays, and now it's kind of like it stems out of From the Ground Up Discord. Just trying to organize my thought process.
That's cool. Yeah, I think with the recordings, you could, if you keep them recorded, then you can, even make, your own podcast series and have your own website that's just the podcast, or Lazy Sundays, or the From the Ground Up, or whatever, and just kind of make it just your collection of your recordings, and you put them up, and you can just kind of upload them in succession since you already have them all recorded.
So I currently have a podcast called Learning to Be a Food Entrepreneur, which kind of streamlines all the information that I talk about during Lazy Sundays. Okay. And I post that on Anchor, and it distributes it out to different platforms. I think it's on 8 different platforms right now. It's on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast. Yeah, so if you guys haven't heard of Anchor, it's really cool. You can upload podcasts to it, and then it takes care of distribution.
That is neat.
So yeah,
it's called Anchor.
Here I can link it. It's cool, and they give you the option of uploading just uploading like a little snippet. You know how MSP Waves has the I can't think of the word, the disclaimer, right? It's Anchor. They say if you do this little snippet, we'll kind of pay you per listen of your podcast series.
That's
so
cool.
If you're looking for something to do with the audio files from the show.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I would love to get going on that, because I do have, this is episode 39 of this, and yeah, it would be great to be able to make something off of these, and to get a wider audience, get them out to a wider audience too.
Mm-hmm. So I just posted Anchor, and so if you guys are looking for, if any of you guys are interested in learning to be a food entrepreneur, or anything like that, if you just search the Learning to Be a Food Entrepreneur in Anchor, it'll pop up. You can also search it on Spotify if you have that.
Awesome. That's awesome, man. So do you record that podcast on like a is it just a personal thing that you do and not broadcast out live, or do you do that like over YouTube or anything like that, and then bring it into Anchor?
So that's something I do kind of in my own time. So in the beginning, it started out as I would do maybe 3 or 4 broadcasts in MSP Waves, and then I would have like a summary episode where I would just personally record and talk about the entire progress that happened that month. Okay. So that's how it started, and then the time difference became greater and greater. So I think I think it was like 6 months between the last recording I did and the one I did most recently,
Okay.
or something like that. And it kind of like I said, it's a streamlined version of what happens in Lazy Sundays.
Okay, man. Yeah, that's very cool. That you figured that out, and I am definitely looking into that, and I'm gonna try to get your show on there. So I'm trying to look it up right now, and I typed in "learning to be a food entrepreneur" podcast into the search engine, and I'm not finding it. Do I have to search for it through Anchor? Or do you have a link or something that you could share with everybody?
Yeah, here I'll link it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm for sure gonna get into that. That's cool, man.
Here we go. It's like no spaces. This is the first time that I'm promoting it. I've kind of been I've been doing it on the side and not telling anybody about it.
Oh no.
so that one day, like, hopefully somebody can stumble on it and think it, I don't know. It's really bootleg. My whole thought behind it is to just show progress from the very start. So in the first episode, I'm choppy and I'm like thinking of what I want to say, and I get nervous hiccups sometimes. So I'm sitting there like trying to do this recording and hiccup a little bit. And,
yeah.
And so, but I post it anyways because I want, hopefully by the end, hopefully people can see the difference between the very first one that I do and the most recent one that I do.
Absolutely, yeah. I was stumbling over myself all over the time and doing all that in the beginning of when I started, and then even when I have problems with live things, especially now. I see I just had another little pop up of an issue, but yeah, I stumble and things like that. But yeah, I just start to try to reflect and try to get better every time, and it's just about trying to keep pushing forward and keep trying to get better and better as you go along. And that's two mindsets I think you can have. You can have that static mindset where you think that your knowledge is fixed and you can't learn anything new, or you can have that growth mindset where you can keep pushing yourself to learn more, and you may not know it all in the beginning, but you know that you can learn and you can keep growing. And so it's those two fundamentally different mindsets can totally change your attitude as well. And so I totally on the same page with you as well. It's great to be able to look back at some of those things and see where you came from and where you are now.
Yeah, I think that's where, wherever this string leads me, whatever I'm pulling on and trying to accomplish, wherever it goes, hopefully, if I have all of this stuff recorded in the future, I'll be able to look back, and that's where the real value is going to be. I think the real value is in being able to reflect on what's happened in the past and talk about that I think that's where a lot of learning take place, is the reflection on experiments or views of the past and progress that you've made. I don't know. That's just me brainstorming again.
No, absolutely, man. And I used to work in a research lab, and that was pretty much everything about what we were doing in there is that we didn't have the quote, I think, came from Albert Einstein, but he said if research is is what you do when you have no idea what you're doing. It's just like, it's just you're trying to find the answers, and the only way you can do that is by doing experiments and then documenting your results and things like that. So that's what you have to do in life as well. Is that you get out there and you do things, and then just keep recording and your what's working, what didn't work, and then learning, having those lessons learned moving forward. And that's something I really like about what AgRoad does too. Like AgRoad here is a really that guy gets some stuff done. And but listening in on some of those times when he has meetings with people, he always tries to do that okay, what are the takeaways from this, and kind of reiterates that. And then you can kind of write all that stuff down, and then when you move forward in the future, those are those hot items that you need to take care of and to start getting better at. So yeah, that's another whole thing with being an entrepreneur, that I don't consider myself as a natural leader. Some people seem that way as natural leaders, but true leadership is quite difficult. I think it's something that there's a difference between being a leader and being a boss. And it seems like there are a lot of bosses out there, but there are not a lot of good leaders in business and stuff. So,
it seems like, I don't know. I think a real leader needs to care about people. No. Yeah. Okay. So we're all smart people in this Discord. I assume I've met some of the smartest people I know in Discords that have to do with cryptocurrency, right? And we all care about the data and metrics and the what's happening in new technology and innovation and all of that. So we all care about that stuff, right? But I think we all need to care about people as well. And I think places like PAL, I think they do that here. And I don't know. So I think you're right on right there. There's more to do with being a leader than just being a boss.
Yeah. One of the, I'm always trying to grow in that regard, because I do want to employ some people eventually. I am working on my own path to starting my own business and getting started just individually and doing that. And it's it is a goal of mine to be able to bring on people in the future and to be an employer and help other people through meaningful work and doing the farm and things like that. And so I'm always trying to grow in that regard and trying to become the best person I can be, and try to become more assertive and more inspirational, I guess, because a leader, I believe a good leader is a good teacher, and it's always trying to build up the other people around them and trying to bring out the best and trying to see, where people's strengths are and putting those people in the positions that they can excel at. And so, so Team Humble says that he's never met a leader that led. Yeah. So
makes sense. Yeah, that sounds very similar to the saying, or the idea of leading from behind. Or have you heard that before?
No.
It's like I think it had to do with wolves, and like the strongest wolf leads from behind or something like that. Right?
Okay.
Let me see. I don't want to butcher it, and now I'm.
Yeah. It's a lot of the things that I've read is like, one of the big ones was Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People was one of the really great ones that I read, and it has a lot of those ideas in there about trying to build people up, put people in the right place that they can shine, and then you're just kind of like the visionary, and you're trying to bring about the vision, but you're putting you're not trying to do it all yourself. You're trying to find the people that can help make that possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Team Humble says to be the best person you can be, listen to what you really are and not what you think you need to be. That's some great wisdom right there, man. Yeah. I think that is a big part of it too, is that if you are truly comfortable in your own skin and doing what you really love and being, the highest fulfillment of who you are as an individual, then it helps to people naturally gravitate towards that.
Yeah, I really like. I'm gonna reflect on kind of MSP waves. I really like that that in PAL, in this community, you can get people that are like really data centric, right, or like really care about data, but then you can also have these kind of philosophical conversations as well.
Yeah, I've said it multiple times here. It is like a little family, and it is cool that people have. It seems like there are a lot of people that are on the similar path of self growth, and having an open mind. And some people in my life, in my local area, it is a struggle to talk to, because some people accuse me of having such an open mind that my brains are going to fall out of my head. but I like to keep an open mind and to try to take in as much of the information as I can, just like you're saying, and constantly learning, instead of closing my mind off to certain ideas or certain possibilities and things like that. So I find a lot of like-minded people in that regard here. At least willing to listen to the conversation instead of shutting down.
Yeah, I agree.
And go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm really looking forward to researching this stuff, because since I've been here, I mean, we've talked about Austrian economics, Keynesian economics. I mean, you've shown me the profound foods garden. I'm going to take a closer and deeper look at your steemit profile, and then my tech trail. I'll be reaching out to, and I brought up the fairshare.org that Team Humble sent me, so I'm really excited.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great, man. That you go out and you take that information and all that stuff. It's I try to pull things from all over the place, and definitely try to learn as much as I can. A key to a lot of things in my life is reading books. I kind of built myself a little bit of a vision board a while ago and wrote down, a lot of the targets and goals I wanted for myself. And one of those was just try to read one new book a month. And so and anytime I get something that comes across my way, that's another book or something, something to read, I try to get into that and find that book.
Oh yeah. I didn't even mention the book you recommended I read, the Creature of Jekyll Island.
Yeah, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Yeah, G. Edward Griffin. Yep. Yeah, that will it's definitely a great read, and it will really shine some lights on the whole issue and how the world is where it is right now and why we even have cryptocurrencies. I don't even know if cryptocurrencies would have been born if we had a sound money system. But that is the reality of the world that we live in right now. And so it's an opportunity for us, if we can take it in the right direction, I think, to lead to a lot of abundance and freedom in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Through the decentralization of things. So that's a big thing that I like to do. And one of my big things is just to get information like that out, and to get information on how to become more self-reliant and more decentralized in all aspects of our life, because I believe that people that are more self-reliant and that are moving in that direction are less likely to be manipulated and be controlled. So, so that's it's a lot about what I'm about, and I love getting people like you on that are doing things, that are doing things and out there. No matter if it's not totally working out for you, but experimenting with the things and growing. So,
yeah, I'm really looking forward to starting a garden outside at this new place, and it'll be really cool because if I share the progress with that, I can also tie in the seeds from Sage Scrub and the Homesteaders Co-op, and things will kind of start going full circle. And so,
yeah, that is so exciting that you got those from him. He's such a cool dude, man. That is such a cool thing to be able to he just sent you those out of the kindness of his heart. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Isn't that cool? I thought so. So
yeah, absolutely.
I want to see. He gave me some kale and some peas. I want to try peas, but I think it might be too late in the season to start it. I don't know. We're almost in June, so I have to see I have to see what I can plant from what he gave me that'll actually kind of yield, because I don't want to just waste the seeds,
Yeah, so the sugar snap, if they're the sugar snap peas or something like that, or snow peas or whatever those are called, those tend to grow like in a cooler weather, or you can get them started in cooler weather. But if you have like a more shaded area, you should be able to grow those in like during the summertime. But they need more of a shaded area to grow in.
Okay.
So
sweet. It sounds like I can talk to you about growing stuff.
Yeah, I've been experimenting with that for quite a long time, doing soil gardens and raised bed gardens and things like that, and just experimenting. I try to every season I try to do something different, and a lot of that turned me on to guys like John Kohler and GrowingYourGreens.com, and Jeff Lawton is one of the big ones. So. And then Curtis Stone, the guy, the urban farmer, and everything like that. So, a lot of those resources, and then just trying different things every season, and seeing what works, what doesn't, and some of those seeds are good. You don't have to use all the seeds, right? You can just take a portion of the seeds, and then try to gain as much knowledge as you can. Just like talking to different people and going out there and trying it, and then seeing if it's going to work, and then just kind of, recording what worked and what didn't, and just keep experimenting every year. That's why I love gardening, is because it's an extension of the research.
Yeah. Well, so there's two methods that I was learning about that I want to see if I can combine. I was looking at something called square foot gardening, and like a no-till method.
Yeah.
So,
I like the no-till method, because once you get your soil started, you have a living biome going on in the soil. And so when you do heavy tilling, you're disturbing that living biome that's happening in there. And so the no-till method is pretty cool. And then you might also want to look into something called Korean natural farming, where you're using like beneficial microbes and putting that into the soil, introducing that into the soil, just kind of like through a fermentation process kind of thing. Dynamic Green TK is a really cool steamian that's into that kind of stuff. And he turned me on to some of that recently. And that's a great way that I want to experiment with is doing some of that. And but Mackenzie, man, I really appreciate you being a guest with me today. Really like-minded individual. So yeah, we got to stay connected. And yeah, kind of maybe I'm gonna get in your Discord group and come in there and chat it up. And
Sweet.
Definitely get connected more and grow in the future, man. So
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
yeah, brother, it's a lot of fun, man. It was a really great conversation today. Really appreciate you joining me as a guest, and it was really fun. So yeah, stay tuned, everybody. We got Crimson Cloud Show Steamwave Saturday coming up, and thank you for hanging out on the MSP Waves. Just a big shout out to everybody that joined today. Inertia, My Tech Trail, Patient Zero, Peachy Mod, Rondon, Sunravel Me, Team Humble, and I just saw Wolf Slayer jump in there, but you get a shout out, man. So appreciate all you guys for coming in and hanging out. Mackenzie, Gary, once again, thank you so much for being part of the show today. And we'll catch you guys next week with another episode of Meadows and Makers. And I really love hanging out and doing this, and gonna keep trying to bring more inspirational people on the show, and people that are out there doing things and doing some really interesting and neat stuff in the world today, and get as many Steamians on here as possible. So once again, appreciate all you guys, and y'all have a wonderful day, and we will see you guys next week. I don't have my music all queued up, so I'm just going to kind of talk it out for the rest of this little period so that there's no dead air. And just once again, big thanks for all you guys, and really appreciate all you guys every week showing up and coming out to the show. So thanks again, everybody. And we will catch you guys next week. So peace. All right. Let's see.